Ouagadougou, 5 a.m. The city still slumbers, wrapped in the gentle hum of a light breeze rustling through the trees, broken only by the distant crow of a rooster. On the horizon, the first line of dawn paints the sky with a thin streak of gold, brushing over rooftops dusted in red earth. In the city's center, the presidential residence stands with quiet authority, but inside, the air is heavy with focus and purpose. On the second floor, in a modest yet disciplined office, Ibrahim Traoré has already been at his desk for a while. A warm desk lamp casts a steady glow over a thick stack of security and economic reports. Beside him, a cup of strong black coffee releases thin curls of steam. This isn't a leisurely morning ritual, it's a command post in miniature. Traoré believes that if the day begins with clarity and information, the rest will follow with direction and precision. A soft chime breaks the silence, the secure satellite phone. It's the National Security Advisor, reporting on the northern border. The advisor's voice is steady, but every number and incident carries weight. As Traoré listens, he imagines the faces of soldiers and villagers behind the statistics. He doesn't interrupt, only jotting down precise notes in a worn, leather-bound notebook. Occasionally, his fingers tap the table in thought, a small tell when he's considering his next move. Outside, guards rotate shifts. The rhythm of boots on stone blends with the early chorus of birds. Traoré sets down his pen, exhales slowly, and looks out the window. The sunlight is stronger now, spilling through the trees, a reminder that the challenges of the day are already approaching. He takes another sip of coffee, the bitterness sharp, the heat jolting his senses fully awake. On his desk, foreign headlines on African politics and European affairs lie open. He skims quickly, lingering on pieces about economic cooperation and regional security. To him, understanding how the world moves is as crucial as knowing the pulse of his own nation. The clock strikes 6. He rises, closing the report folder but keeping the notebook tucked under his arm. For the world's youngest president, the day has officially begun, and he knows that every decision he makes today could shape the destiny of his country for years to come. By 6 a.m., the Ouagadougou sky has brightened fully. Soft golden light filters through the trees, casting long, shifting shadows across the stone path that leads to the garden behind the presidential residence. The air is crisp and cool, filled with the calls of morning birds. The sound of steady footsteps cuts through the quiet. Traoré, in a simple tracksuit, runs with the measured pace of someone who has lived by discipline all his life. A few security officers follow at a respectful distance, giving him space to breathe and think. After one lap, he slows to stretch, glancing over at the newly planted flower beds. Caring for the land is like caring for a nation, he once told the gardening staff. You need patience, and you have to nurture it every day. After 20 minutes of running, he heads to the small gym inside the residence. The clank of weights and the snap of resistance bands echo through the room. For him, physical strength isn't about vanity. It's about keeping his body and mind sharp enough to endure the relentless demands of leadership. By 7 a.m., he walks into the cabinet room. The atmosphere shifts instantly, serious and attentive. On the table lie thick files on agriculture, health, education, and security. One by one, ministers present their updates. When the discussion turns to the agricultural infrastructure reform project, Traoré's brow furrows. The budget was released last month. Why is progress only at 60%? His voice is calm but firm. The minister hesitates, explaining delays due to transportation bottlenecks and worker shortages. Traoré doesn't raise his voice, but his tone leaves no doubt. Find a solution. Give me a clear timeline. When people are waiting, we do not have the luxury of delay. The meeting continues with a report on rural healthcare. A female minister shares photos of a recently renovated village clinic. Traoré studies them, then offers a faint smile. This is why we're here, to make real, tangible changes, even in the smallest places. At 8:30 a.m., he closes the meeting with a reminder. Your successes are the nation's successes, but your failures, they are burdens our people must carry. The room falls silent for a moment before ministers nod in agreement, gathering their files to face the long day ahead. At 9 a.m., the armored motorcade pulls out of the presidential residence. Ouagadougou's streets are coming alive, motorcycles weaving through traffic, trucks rumbling by, fruit vendors pushing carts piled high, and children darting around in laughter. As Traoré's car passes, people wave enthusiastically. Some raise small Burkina Faso flags, filling the air with a warmth that feels personal. The first stop is a newly opened wheat processing plant. From a distance, the rhythmic hum of the machinery can already be heard, steady, like the heartbeat of a giant organism. Inside, the air carries a mix of flour and metal. Workers in neat uniforms and hard hats move with practiced precision along the production lines. Rather than head straight to the display area, Traoré starts on the factory floor. He shakes hands with workers, asking about their shifts, pay, and personal goals. A woman in her 30s replies with both pride and hope in her voice, "I want my son to go to university, sir." Traoré smiles genuinely, turning to the plant director. "We're not just building factories here. We're opening doors for the next generation." By 10 o'clock, the convoy heads toward the outskirts, where rice fields stretch into the horizon. The sun is now high, reflecting off the water in shimmering patches. Farmers, their hands caked with mud and clothes soaked in sweat, continue harvesting under the glare. An elderly man, thin but with sharp eyes, approaches to greet the president. He recounts working in his youth for a foreign-owned farm with meager pay, then contrasts it with today, land returned to the community and fair prices for their crops. His voice trembles, but his gaze shines with pride. Traoré sits by the edge of the field, accepting a cup of hot tea offered by the farmer. He listens intently, jotting a few quick notes in his leather notebook, then says, "If we invest in more machinery and technology, your yields could double. I'll raise this in next week's cabinet meeting." Before leaving, he stands in the middle of the field, turning slowly to address everyone within earshot. "The strength of Burkina Faso doesn't lie in skyscrapers. It lies right here, in your hands." By 11 a.m., the motorcade arrives at Ouagadougou's International Conference Center. The recently renovated building is lined with the flags of various African and Asian nations along its entrance. The air carries a mix of formality and warmth, an official diplomatic gathering, yet with the familiarity of allies. Inside, delegations are already waiting. Traoré enters, shaking hands with each representative, eyes steady, grip firm, a handshake meant to convey both respect and commitment. In the closed-door session, he speaks about partnerships based on equality, free from political strings. "We don't need loans that strip us of our sovereignty. We need partners who believe in each other's capabilities." A delegate from Southeast Asia nods in agreement. "That is exactly why we are here." The discussion moves into high-tech agricultural projects and bilateral trade opportunities. Early in the afternoon, Traoré leaves the conference for a newly opened co-working space, where young entrepreneurs are pitching ideas. The room is alive with laughter, the clatter of keyboards and whiteboards crowded with diagrams and figures. He walks slowly from table to table, listening to a group of students describe their app that gives farmers real-time market prices. "This idea could change how farmers access information," he says, promising to connect them with the Ministry of Agriculture for a nationwide pilot. Another team is working on low-cost solar energy solutions for remote communities. Traoré doesn't just praise them, he challenges them. "If you face funding shortages, how will you adapt? If your technology is copied, how will you protect it?" The group exchanges glances, then smiles, realizing these are questions meant to sharpen their vision. Before leaving, he stands before the young innovators. "The future of this nation does not rest in my hands alone. It lives in each idea, each action that you bring to life." Late afternoon, the golden light fades over the streets of Ouagadougou. The presidential motorcade glides back toward the residence after a long day. Outside the car windows, the city shifts into its evening rhythm, smoke rising from food stalls, vendors calling out their wares, and groups of children playing soccer along the roadside. As he steps out of the car, Traoré still takes a few minutes to chat with the security staff and logistical team. He asks about their families, reminding them to rest well. For him, this kind of care isn't just polite. It's the glue that binds a team together. Dinner is a simple affair in the small dining room. 2 peanut soup and fresh greens from the garden. A few close advisors join him, but the conversation drifts away from politics to everyday life. Stories about a village festival, a new street food dish, or a documentary someone recently watched. Around 8 o'clock p.m., he returns to his office, opening the notebook filled with today's scribbles. Under the warm glow of the desk lamp, he reviews and adds to the notes. Some lines are just a few words, but to him, they're pieces of tomorrow's decisions. When the clock strikes 10, he closes the notebook and sets his pen aside. Stepping out onto the balcony, he takes a deep breath. The city is quieter now, though far in the distance. Faint lights still flicker from small neighborhoods. He knows that while he sleeps, soldiers will guard the borders, doctors will remain on call, and farmers will watch over their crops. Before heading to bed, he reminds himself, tomorrow will begin early again, but if today was lived with dedication, then tomorrow will be worth facing.